Hey guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon video. So in my Q&A, you guys asked me which Pokemon I was looking forward to for Pokemon Go Gen 2 Pokemon. And I said I was going to give you guys a top 5 video with my favorite Pokemon. It's actually going to be a top 10 video. So the names of the Pokemon are in Pokemon Go, but that's it. There's like no other coding for them yet. But we know what the max CP of the Pokemon is going to be just based on the algorithms that they've used on the Gen 1 Pokemon. The list of them is available online. I'm going to drop it in the description below. I have to say that just from looking through the list, I got so excited for these Pokemon actually being available to see in the app, like seeing them in the wild. Like I cannot wait to see them in the game. Obviously we don't know when that is going to be yet, but we can still get hyped, like we can still get really excited about what those Pokemon are. So I also said in my last Pokemon Go video that Ali and I had so much fun last year playing Soul Silver and Heart Gold. I played Soul Silver, Ali played Heart Gold, and we just had the best time playing it. So I'm really excited for these Pokemon to land in the game. This list is definitely based on my experience of playing Soul Silver. These are the Pokemon that I really enjoyed playing with, whether it's just because they look amazing or because they fought amazing for me as well. So this list is definitely based on my own opinions. But let's kick off. Let's go through my top 10 list of Gen 2 Pokemon. So we're going to kick off with a lot of cuteness because Gen 2 actually brought in loads of baby Pokemon for kind of the adult versions that were in Gen 1. They now have a really cute little baby version as well. So I wanted to put all these together at number 10 because the baby Pokemon are going to be really adorable. They're not the strongest, although there's a few in there that actually have a high CP, but they're still absolutely super cute. And if you don't get the adult Pokemon, if they just don't really spawn where you are, but the baby Pokemon do, then it could be a really nice way to get Pokemon like Jinx or Electabuzz just by getting their little baby version. So let's go through the baby Pokemon that are going to be brought into the game with Gen 2. So up first is the most popular Pokemon in the game and a very popular little baby Pokemon as well. It is Pichu, who is absolutely adorable. The highest CP that you'll be able to find a little Pichu in the wild is 426. So currently you can just get Pikachu and evolve it into a Raichu. I haven't managed that yet, but I am walking a Pikachu. This is now going to add a new Pokemon set evolution chain, so it's Pichu to Pikachu to Raichu. Next up, Electabuzz, as I mentioned before, has a baby version called Elekid. Elekid is actually surprisingly strong. His max CP is 1166. I was surprised that little baby Pokemon could actually get that strong, but I guess because Electabuzz is only like a 2 Pokemon evolution, that its baby Pokemon is going to be a little bit stronger. So that is the second baby Pokemon in the game. Baby Pokemon number 3 has the cutest name ever. So it's actually Jigglypuff's baby form and it's called Igglybuff, which is just the cutest little name. Its highest max CP is 612 and that will obviously go Igglybuff to Jigglypuff to Wigglytuff. Next up we have Magmar's baby Pokemon. So Magmar, like Electabuzz, was another Pokemon that once you got those candies for it, there wasn't really that much you could do other than power it up. You couldn't evolve it anymore. You can do if you have a baby version of Magmar, which is called Magby. It also has a high maximum CP of 1270. So again, because it's only a 2-step evolution chain, it does have a strong little baby Pokemon. So if you've not managed to find any Magmars near you, you may be able to find Magbys when Gen 2 releases and evolve it into a Magmar. So this exact same scenario with Jinx. Not my favorite Pokemon, kind of a bit of a creepy looking Pokemon, but it now has a baby form called Smoochum. Not quite as strong a baby Pokemon as Electabuzz and Magmar's baby. Smoochum has a maximum CP of 820, so it's still strong for a baby, but not really comparable to those guys. But Smoochum, if you haven't got a Jinx near you, may start spawning in with Gen 2. So next up, we have a little fighting Pokemon called Tyrogue. His maximum CP is 550. He actually has 3 possible evolutions. He has Hitmonlee. No, he doesn't. He has Hitmonlee, Hitmonchamp, and Hitmontop. So Hitmontop is a new Pokemon for Gen 2. It has a maximum CP of 1515. And in the game, it's decided which one of those it evolves to based on its stats. So whether it has high attack, high defense, or equally high attack and defense will decide which of the fighting Pokemon it evolves into. They may use the exact same algorithm for the Pokemon Go versions as well. We're not sure yet, but this little guy has the possibility of evolving into any 3 of those Pokemon. I guess they might do attack, defense, and HP. So all the little baby Pokemon together form number 10 in my Gen 2 top 10 list. So let's move on to number 9. So number 9 is an insanely strong Pokemon. It's definitely going to be stronger than Dragonite, which is the strongest current Pokemon of Gen 1 since there's no legendaries, and that is Tyranitar. So the only reason this guy is higher up on my list is because I never actually got a Tyranitar when I played Soul Silver. Tyranitar is definitely Ali's Pokemon, and it was an absolute beast. I tended to go for kind of cuter looking Pokemon, which is why I never got a Tyranitar, but I can appreciate how insanely strong this Pokemon is. It has a max CP of 3,653, which is just insane. And if you manage to get one of these guys in Pokemon Go, it is going to be a powerhouse when you go to the gym. So that is my Pokemon at number 9. It's a 3-step evolution. So Tyranitar is probably not going to be the easiest Pokemon to get. You will probably need to catch your Larvitars and your Pupitas and then evolve them into a Tyranitar. You may encounter one in the wild, but we've never seen a Dragonite in the wild. I wish we have, but we never ever have. But if you do manage to find one, this guy is probably going to be really hard to catch. So make sure you've got lots of Ultra Balls and Raspberries. So number 8 is another insanely strong Pokemon. It is the final evolution of one of the 3 new starting Pokemon that are going to be coming to Gen 2. And it's actually the Pokemon that I started the game with when I played Soul Silver, but I just didn't use as much as I should have done. Like, I think from going from Pokemon Red to Soul Silver, I just wanted to catch all the Pokemon that I recognized, so I didn't use this as much as I should have done. So number 8 is the Fire type Pokemon TYPHLOSION. Again, I had it when I played Soul Silver. I did not make enough use of this Pokemon. Its max CP in Pokemon Go is going to be 2,602. It obviously doesn't have the same max CP as Tyranitar, but that's like a Dragonite, almost like legendary equivalent Pokemon. This is your final evolution of your starter Pokemon, so it's more comparable to, I guess, Charizard. In fact, looking at the stats that I have for Gen 2 Pokemon compared to Gen 1 Pokemon, TYPHLOSION actually has the exact same max CP as Charizard, so you can more or less compare the two of them. Again, it's a really cool looking Pokemon, it's a really strong looking Pokemon, and it definitely deserves a place in my top 10 list. So number 7 is definitely a personal preference. Number 7 on my list is Togetic. Togetic has a max CP of 1,450 and it evolves from Little Togepi, which is a max CP of 576. Now the reason this is on my list is because when you play Soul Silver, you get an egg at the beginning of the game and you walk the egg for a long time and eventually it hatches into a Togepi, and then if you make it happy enough, it will evolve into a Togetic. I used my Togetic for so much of the game, and I also taught it fly, so it was a Pokemon that I always had in my squad, and it was pretty good. Like, I really liked the way it looks, I really liked fighting with it. It was just like a really good little course member of my squad on Soul Silver. I only actually swapped it out when I managed to get Lugia, so it stayed with me for a really long portion of the game, and it definitely deserves a place in my list. So number 6 on my list is actually 2 Pokemon, and I've combined them together because the first Pokemon is super cute, but then when you evolve it, it's super strong. So it's got the best of both worlds. Number 6 is TEDDIURSA. It's such a cute little Pokemon. It looks like a little teddy bear, and it's just got the cutest little face. It's also quite strong. So its max CP is 1,267, which is pretty damn good. But if you evolve it, it turns into this huge like grizzly bear kind of Pokemon called URSARING. URSARING has a max CP of 2,648, so it's actually higher than TYPHLOSION. It's a really cool Pokemon, and I love that its kind of beginning form is so cute and its end form is so strong. So together they make a pretty amazing entry into my list at number 6. So at number 5, I've gone back for a really cute Pokemon, and this is actually the Pokemon that your kind of friend rival guy has when you play Soul Silver, and it is Marill. So Marill has a maximum CP of 587, and it also evolves into a Azumarill, which is a max CP of 1,750, so quite a good evolution as well, and just both really cute Pokemon. Definitely deserve a place on my list. So number 4 makes its way onto my list because it is such a useful Pokemon. Number 4 is Slugma. It has a max CP of 796. But the reason it's on my list is because if you have a Slugma in your party, when you're playing Heart Gold or Soul Silver, all your eggs will hatch faster. So it kind of says that the heat from that Slugma produces helps make the eggs hatch faster. So I'm really hoping that they bring this mechanic to Pokemon Go. The best way to do it would probably to have your buddy Pokemon as your Slugma. While you're walking your Slugma, your eggs take half the amount of time to hatch. You'll get your 10k eggs in 5k, you will get your 5k eggs in 2.5k, and you'll get your 2k eggs in 1k, as long as you have your little Slugma as your walking buddy. So we are on to the final 3. These are definitely my favorite Pokemon of Gen 2. They are the ones I'm looking forward to catching the most, and adding to my Pokedex. So, number 3. So number 3 for me is legendary dog Entei. He has a huge max CP of 3,662, which is just insane. He was an absolutely amazing addition to my squad in Soul Silver, and there were so many times where he just came through when I was just about to lose a battle and then just flattened everybody. He is an absolutely awesome Pokemon. He is, however, a legendary Pokemon, as you can probably tell by that CP number, which means that he probably won't be available when Gen 2 first launches. However, hopefully they will do some kind of event. I know they're not done it for Gen 1 yet, but hopefully there'll be a way that we can add Entei to our squad, because he is just amazing and I really, really want to catch an Entei. So number 2 on my list is another legendary Pokemon. I mentioned how much I love Togetic, how I used it to fly, and it was an amazing member of my squad. Until I got a Lugia. Lugia is definitely one of my favorite Pokemon ever. I always had it follow me in Soul Silver because you could actually pick a Pokemon that walked behind you, and it looked huge. It is such a badass looking Pokemon. It's flying and psychic type, and it will just power through any squad you put it up against. It's an awesome Pokemon, and it will be coming to Gen 2. Again, it is a legendary, so it's probably not going to be something that just appears out in the wild, but if it does appear in an event, you will definitely want to get your hands on a Lugia. So its Heart Gold equivalent is Ho-Oh. I never liked the look of Ho-Oh as much. I think it's just its design isn't quite as cool. However, Ho-Oh is definitely a better Pokemon in Pokemon Go. I think that's because the way Pokemon translates stats into CP, it's definitely weighted the stats of Ho-Oh as higher compared to Lugia, which has resulted in a much higher CP. So Ho-Oh's maximum CP is 4,213. Lugia's max CP is 3,613. So there is an absolutely huge difference between those two Pokemon to say that they are both like the amazing legendary Pokemon of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I think that's because Lugia's speed stat's probably higher, and Pokemon Go just does not favour the speed stat, unfortunately. However, I think it's a much cooler looking Pokemon, and it's definitely my favourite of the two, and it deserves its second place on my list. So we've been through the top 9 Pokemon of Gen 2 that are going to come to Pokemon Go hopefully soon. There's some amazing Pokemon on there. There's definitely some insanely strong Pokemon and some very cute Pokemon that are going to be making their way to Pokemon Go. But my number 1 Gen 2 Pokemon goes to a very special Pokemon. As you can guess, it's an evolution. So my favourite ever Pokemon ever is Jolteon. It's definitely my favourite Gen 1 Pokemon. Unfortunately, its stats aren't amazing in Pokemon Go, but Jolteon will always have a special place in my heart because it's so good when you play the game. It's so speedy and amazing. And my favourite Gen 2 Pokemon is another evolution that I also think is an amazing Pokemon. Is it Espeon? Is it Umbreon? They both make their way to Gen 2. They both have pretty good stats. They land somewhere in between Jolteon and Flareon. Umbreon has 2,311 as its max CP. Espeon has 2,252, so Umbreon is a little bit better, but they're both quite similar. However, the Pokemon that reaches number 1 on my list is Umbreon. Umbreon is a dark Pokemon, and he is mean. He looks mean, he fights mean, and he is just an all-round awesome Pokemon. And also, with the rumors that shiny Pokemon may be coming to the game, he has one of the best shiny looks ever. He goes from kind of black with yellow highlights to black with these like neon blue highlights, and he just looks even more badass. He is such an awesome Pokemon, and we actually got a plushie of him at Gamescom. So we now have both regular Umbreon and we have shiny Umbreon. Like, how badass does this Pokemon look? It would look so cool to have by your side. So Umbreon definitely takes the top of my list. I love all the evolutions. Espeon is an awesome looking Pokemon, but I don't know why, this guy just appeals to me a little bit more, so he takes the top of the list. Well done, Umbreon. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this top 10 Gen 2 Pokemon Go list. I want to know which Pokemon you guys are looking forward to. So let me know in the comments below which Pokemon from Gen 2 you are most looking forward to seeing in the wild and catching in Pokemon Go. And let me know if you're excited for Umbreon as well. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up if you did, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye!